Mostly bullying. Okay, so one there's one game I need DLC for. I need to go back to that game. I legit played it and launched, but never again. Um, and that game is Dragon's Dogma 2. It is the shit. I mean,
Gentlemen, as many of you may or
it
may
is
not
getting
know,
updates.
I love Dragon's Dogma.
So it does have a roadmap. So it should be good. So it should be fun.
I love the first one as well. Dragon's Dogma 2 was like this holy crap moment of gaming for me though, because when the first one came out, it was during some dark days at Capcom. Like that was the same year window, you may forget, that Resident Evil 6 came out. And I'm not like a Resident Evil 6 hater. I enjoy the game as like a guilty pleasure, but it definitely, I think when we look at
I
where
love
Capcom
Resident
is
Evil
now,
6.
we're like, oh my god, yes. So as Capcom's enjoyed this bit of a
Resident Evil
resurgence,
6 is a
it's
shit.
been like that what if moment for so many of my franchises that I love from Capcom. Dragon's Dogma is one of them, and I was like, oh, they'll never go back to that. Dragon's Dogma barely sold. They tried the anime, they tried the MMO, they tried all these things that they wanted to grow Dragon's
Dude,
Dogma more than it was. But
I
they never
need
did a traditional
to
sequel. Now
I
the
need to
moment's been missed.
play
They're
the
never gonna do it.
MMO. I heard the MMO is back somehow. So I do need to go play it eventually. Crank the volume. Okay, sorry.
That. I also wonder if they would do the same thing with like Mega Man X. They've gone back to classic Mega Man, but I'm worrying about my man X. But anyway, when Dragon's Dogma 2 was announced, it came after Devil May Cry 5 release, which we heard they had a choice between those two. And it seems like the deal was do Devil May Cry 5 and you'll earn the right to do Dragon's Dogma 2. And they did it, and I loved it. Now, we were talking about it here in chat, and I've read online, there's been a lot of people who were disappointed with Dragon's Dogma 2. Can't relate, but I understand and respect your opinion. So what I'll say is this DLC expansion re-release news, potentially if it is that, can be great news for everybody. It's great news for a Dragon's Dogma diehard like me who's like, hell yeah, give me more. It could be great for those of you who are maybe dissatisfied with Dragon's Dogma 2 at its launch period, whether it be technical issues or thinking there was not enough meat on the bones, whatever it may be, the issues that you had. A Dark Arisen moment for Dragon's Dogma 2 seems due for both sides of the audience, for those like me who want to go back and for those like you who may want more. So let's go down memory lane a little bit here with Dragon's Dogma 2. First and foremost, this game has not seen an update since April 8th, 2025. A lot of people were really bewildered by this because the expectation was that Dragon's Dogma 2 would get DLC very soon. The last actual post and update that we got from the official Dragon's Dogma Twitter account was here where we learned that 4 million Arisen around the world had joined Dragon's Dogma 2. So 4 million copies sold or 4 million players.
I'd say that's
I don't know. Like they always kind of color up these stats. They say this is as of November 5th. So pretty decent. Compared to what something like Resident Evil is doing, though, Dragon's Dogma really isn't sniffing that territory, but that's still pretty good. However, it's fair to say that Dragon's Dogma 2 hasn't enjoyed the sustained sort of positive conversation that the first one did. The first one was just so distinct, especially at a time where like fantasy games were scratching and clawing for oxygen when a game like Skyrim had just came out about like 6 months prior.
I mean, the first one was actually peak. All right, hold on. All right.
More than that. To Dragon's Dogma was Skyrim, right? So like Dragon's Dogma getting that kind of oxygen because it was so distinct in its boss fights,
but it
and
didn't
its
have
world,
legs.
Difficulty,
plus didn't feel good. Yeah, I think I'm gonna wait until Dragon's Dogma 2 gets its second DLC, and then we should be good. Looks so long. It's always been long as fuck, honestly.
Pawn system, like all these were really distinct elements that made it stand out. And over the years, as more people tried it with Dark Arisen and the additions to that, it really gained like a cult classic following and gained more sales over time where they could justify a sequel. But the second one really hasn't enjoyed that. It kind of came, made its impact, and like a lot of games just sort of faded out. So now what we get here is this post on the Dragon's Dogma Twitter account. It is a 2-year anniversary post. I can't believe it's been 2 years. And there's a lot of key points here for Dragon's Dogma 2 lovers that you'll want to pay attention to, that eagle-eyed Reddit fans have picked out and in some cases deciphered. Also keep in mind here that they're doing a Dragon's Dogma 2 controller, which I find to be mighty interesting given nothing has happened involving Dragon's Dogma in a while now. They're greenlighting some merch collaborations. Could just be for the anniversary. I don't know.
Okay, I'm kind of glad that I did not touch Dragon's Dogma 2. I played it at launch, but I dropped it because the performance was bad, and so I just never went back to it. So eventually, maybe I'll go back to it if if there's DLC. Enemy variants, I see.
But you got to wonder if there's something else kind of cooking here. What I want you to pay attention to is this letter right here.
Yeah, everyone is pointing this out.
I have no idea what that says. That is in like an ancient language that is somewhere in the game. Well, someone went to the length of providing an alphabet for that, and they translated the letter. And the letter says, citing...
What a god. Oh my god. Dude. How the fuck did people do this, bro? That's nutty.
Of griffins flying in from the northern region have been confirmed. This is, again, when you look at the whole image here, front and center. So it's there designed for you to be able to read. Another thing people are paying attention to is right here where my mouse is. We have a bigger image of that. Right here. Bro is not in the game. Bro has his back turned to the entire party. And he's obviously, when you look at the full image here, he's deliberately in view. But everyone else that's in the game is here, but he's not having it. So what you have here is a cryptic letter talking about griffins flying in from the northern region who invited blood. But in all seriousness, that's what has gotten the Dragon's Dogma community a bit in like oh, what's going on here? Because people...
I mean, honestly, like, I can't remember if Dragon's Dogma, like, I can't remember if the first game were people like when people finished the first game, were people expecting any sort of DLC? Because I know it got Dark Arisen. So were people expecting that or no? Actually, wait, I don't think I ever finished Dark Arisen. No, I think I did. I don't know. I can't remember.
People started to dig through northern region references that were in Dragon's Dogma 2, and there were quite a few. An abundance of magical energy has been detected on the northern edge of Vermund, though the source is as yet unknown. Okay, you see that on the loading screen? Whatever. Another one here. The north of the continent is said to be home to an ancient nation, but records of its existence are scarce, and there has been no contact with its people for over a century. So again, something happened over there. We're not sure what exactly it is. And then one more time. Hyperboreal Lorica. Armor set here. Armor that glitters with sublime light. Forged in honor of the deity to whom the Hyperboreans, a legendary bow-wielding people of the north, traced their lineage. So there's multiple mentionings of something from the north. And then we see this letter here talking about the northern region, which is, again, in this celebration image with dude in the back who just does not want to be bothered. Okay, and we don't see him in the game.
Interesting.
So it's clear something's being teased here, I think. Very subtly. It's the perfect type of tease. This is subtle enough where I'm like, they might just be having some fun. But also, I think they're trying to communicate something to us. And I love this sort of stuff. Okay, what we're probably looking at here is a Dark Arisen 2 moment for this game.
Hold on. The style reminds me of how Zone 9 were hinted at Breath of the Wild, but they were something completely different. Oh, really? Okay.
Re-release, if you will. That is what the first game got. But I think the first game had more problems than Dragon's Dogma 1 did at launch. There were some things that were, I think, attached to the personality of the game that I love that people found irritable, such as how often your pawns talked in the first game. This was a big problem. I thought it was hilarious, right? Just hearing the same lines over and over, but people didn't like that. So that was something that a re-release in Dark Arisen fine-tuned that stuff. But there was also a lot of rebalancing that was done. One thing that people did not like about Dragon's Dogma that I loved and still love is kind of what you actually find right now in Crimson Desert. Like, you go into Crimson Desert and there was, until they updated the game like 2 days later, a lot of friction in its open world exploration. You had to be very
Yeah, I honestly, I think I'm gonna just wait until because the devs are saying that, oh, if there's a need for co-op, if there's enough like fanfare for it, we might add it. So like, I don't know, if they do add co-op, I'm gonna play Crimson Desert from like beginning to end. But if they don't, I don't know. Plus, I think I'm gonna just wait like until more patches, because if they can add like full on like a personal storage system, including like other fixes, I may wait on it for like a month or two and see how much the game gets updated.
About going out there. And I think it works better for Dragon's Dogma because it was really designed with the idea of challenging you, massive boss fights, that sort of thing. Crimson Desert has its moments where it completely holds your hand through every step, and then other times where it wants to let you off the leash and just to kind of be Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 or Dragon's Dogma. And I don't think you can have your cake and eat it too. Like, I think you have to be consistent in that design. So they're clearly picking their path with reducing open world friction and fast travel points by really focusing on, I think, a more accessible approach. I don't think Dragon's Dogma was built to be accessible. And so when the game first came out, things like fast travel was expensive and not really easy to come by.
Yep.
So one thing that the Dark Arisen re-release did was it adjusted some of these irritants. So they changed the cost of the Fairy Stone to allow you to fast travel to certain points in the game, how you set it up. This also added the Port Crystal to Casardis, so you could go back to the starter town with ease. So there was a lot of open world navigation that originally you'd have to plan your runs, basically. Like going out at nighttime in Dragon's Dogma, big mistake. But now, like, you know, that difficulty is still there, but you can still, again, go out there and come back home a little bit easier instead of going out. But I love the journey still, like going out during the daytime and be like, okay, I got to get back, but it's nighttime and different bosses lurk at nighttime. I love that stuff. So they had to smooth that stuff out in Dragon's Dogma 1. They rebalanced a bunch of stuff. Like they rebalanced the assassin vocation. They added 100 new pieces of like tier 3 equipment. High level gear was added. I'm looking at my list here. 58 new level 3 skills, new skills for each of the character classes.
That's fucking insane. Maybe I should go back to Dark Arisen. I don't know if I think I want to say I completed it, but like I really can't remember. Huh. Yeah, I can't remember, dude. Fuck, it's been so long.
And then the kind of cap on top was
But yeah, Lord, what the you and oh my god, Lord, you and Loot did not have to gift that many subs. What the fuck, dude? You guys are so nice. Holy shit! I feel like I really don't deserve your kindness, and just thank you so much.
Black Isle expansion. This was a high-level endgame dungeon that was added to Dragon's Dogma 1. It added like 30+ new enemies, a bunch of new weapons, and a bunch of new bosses.
Cream.
And that was kind of like where people wanted to go to really test their skills. But also, it added like a new final boss to the game, kind of rounded things out. It was, again, like the definitive version.
Also, wait, Loot, it says you're winning against Lord by 1 sub.
Like nowadays,
but it still says Lord is number 1. So that's kind of weird.
When you hand someone Dragon's Dogma, you hand them Dark Arisen. It was a great improvement to an already, I thought, excellent game, but it definitely refined some of those rough edges. Again, I think that Dragon's Dogma 2 has less rough edges, for sure. But that said, I'm here for more of it. So that would be cool with me. And maybe even adjusting to feedback that people had that they found annoying, that maybe they can make it a little more clear here. Like one thing people had issues with Dragon's Dogma 2 was missable content. And sometimes it wasn't clear. I love that Dragon's Dogma 2 ran on a clock, ran on a timer, and that there were points where quests would fail if you spent too long away from that NPC. Like it really played into the time factor that already was in the first game. The first game, you had to be deliberate of when I go out, what time of day is it? But now it's like, when I go out, what quest am I doing? And am I ignoring something else? I felt it made that quest pressure very real that doesn't exist in really any other game. Basically, any other game out there, you can take on any quest whenever. They'll be like, my wife's dying in a cave full of goblins. Please help. But then there's this dissonance between the game and the quest urgency, because then I can just go and fight someone for like 500 hours, roam a bunch of dungeons and get to this later and be like, oh, hey, what's up? And then you help him. And he's like, thank you, God, you jumped on this.
Oh, yeah, switch back. Big thank you.
So quickly thinking, I'm like, no, I didn't.
Like I'd say just put me into the just chatting category, I guess.
Will happen in big open world games, but I love how real that, again, that sort of timer felt in Dragon's Dogma 2. But could they communicate that a little bit better? Sure. Dragon's Dogma 2 also had this like disease that would kill you and the whole town. And it would spread in a very hard to detect way. You'd have to look at people's eyes. I did not have my playthrough nuked by this, but knowing about it when I heard about it and then looking for...
That's actually a thing? You can straight up just kill your fucking... Oh my god. Also, Rolf, I can't with you, dude. Gotta talk to Kick about adding a femboy category. I'm not a fanboy. Fuck off.
Or people who I was like, oh, that pawn is fucked. I am not taking that pawn in. I thought there was a fun little bit of tension there.
I didn't know. I didn't know this was a thing. Also, I forgot we haven't even done the fucking or.
So again, I'm not trying to overly defend Dragon's Dogma 2. I get it that it's got some issues for people, but I feel like it took a lot of the edges that were smooth after Dragon's Dogma 1 and Dark Arisen, brought them into 2, and kind of stayed true to the series identity. I also love the end game
I love you guys
moments,
so much.
we'll just say, with Dragon's Dogma 2 and how it reinvents its open world map. Again, without spoiling.
Who does it? That's sick. Fuck
Brilliant.
yeah.
I think you could have done more with it. And I think that's where they'll probably go with it as well.
That's so
But
cool.
I just love that they like committed so hard to that direction. And it wasn't like this major piece of the game. And they were like, no, we're just like reinventing this completely. So I think Dragon's Dogma as a series is fantastic. So I, as a fan, I'm just excited for more. But to see that it looks like they're probably going to be doing more content in what I imagine would be, given the gap of time, I don't think you can just show up and be like, here's an expansion or here's a little paid DLC. I think this is a full re-release, a more holistic rebalancing and additions on every level.
I mean, if you see, okay, so I did see a Reddit post, something in Brazil said Dragon's Dogma 2 Gold Edition. So I assume it's gonna come bundled with like the expansion or something and all the fixes. But thank God for me, because I barely even touched Dragon's Dogma 2. So legit, it's a plus for me. I'd be upset if I finished the game and I just had the DLC to go through and that was it.
And I'm sure it'll come out this year, and I will be there day one. I will be all over this thing, man, because I love Dragon's Dogma. I just have such warm memories with it. And Dragon's Dogma's Dark Arisen, if y'all are looking to get into the first one, playing that game on Switch, it's just right at home. Just very easy to pick up and play. Very cozy game.
I did want to watch this video because